In this video, I'm going to talk about the 14 luxury or designer handbags that I sold over the last few years. Bags that didn't work with my style, my plus size body, bags that were too heavy, they were too fancy, they were too little, they were too fussy. Some bags that I liked so much that I sold them to go in a different direction. And then some bags that I sold that I could buy the next bag with that money. Well, 2020 and 2021 were years that and I'm sure many of you never ever want to repeat in our lifetime. They were good years for buying and selling luxury. Demand was up, supply was low. They were good years for luxury YouTubers as well. It was comforting to see how other people were dealing with everything that was happening around them and to see the joy that they got from showcasing a new handbag. Because let's face it, there wasn't much joy around that time. We couldn't leave our houses, and many of us experienced great loss over those years. Family members and pets for us. For me, buying and selling my luxury goods provided a sense of normalcy in such a chaotic, confusing, and devastating time. And during those years, unlike the last couple of years, since demand was high and people couldn't spend their money on vacations, and our money actually stretched further than it does now, we weren't seeing those big losses that we're seeing now on parting with our luxury or designer goods. I could buy a handbag and I could turn it around and sell it and make a profit or break even. Having a hard time doing that today, which is why I'm still holding on to things. But these 14 bags are bags that I did sell because they just didn't suit me one way or another. So let's get into it. Bag number 1 is the Saint Laurent Mini Cassandra, and what an adorable bag she was. She was structured like an Hermes Kelly Cellier. Great crossbody bag, thin strap, wonderful calfskin leather, a really neat way of unlocking the bag. She was so cute, but she had to go. She's a small bag, and I could have made her work, but they put that damn partition in such a small bag. Why? It's already so small. Do you really think you're going to lose things in that bag that you need that divider? So I sold her, and it pained me to sell her. So instead, I bought her bigger sister, where the divider, even though if you have watched my other video on my most used luxury items, you know that I have a thing about these dividers. But in the bigger bag, it makes more sense. And she works better for my plus size body. She doesn't get to go out and strut her stuff as much as I would like her to. Maybe we'll change that this year. I also thought that the little bit of shearling, at least I think that's what it is, on the front of it, it adds a nice and unique touch to this bag. You don't see too many of them with that. Bag number 2. And speaking of shearling, there was this Chanel Coco handle shearling bag. I don't know what I was thinking with this one. I mean, I live in rainy, humid Florida. I don't live in Alaska. And I loved the size of this one, but it just wasn't practical for a southern climate. So I sold it. Bag 3 is the Stella McCartney Falabella Mini. So back in 2017, 2018, there was this consignment store in South Tampa where I saw this bag in this really rich navy hue with gold hardware, and I was really drawn to it, but I didn't buy it. And then I couldn't find that combo again, so I regret not getting it. Until I got this mini version with a palm tree on it, figuring how cute, it's Florida-like. Well, it is cute, but it wasn't practical or functional for me. It's actually a really sloppy mess. There's no structure to it to keep things from spilling out of it when you set it down on a table and then open it up. So it didn't last long in my collection. Bag 4 is Gucci. Now, Gucci was hot several years ago when Alessandro was the creative director. And how fun were his designs when they first came out. They were so different from the conservative aspect of Tom Ford, which I loved his stuff as well, and I had a few pieces designed by him back in the 90s. But Alessandro, he really put his mark on Gucci. I loved and I still love his Gucci Marmont bags. Those leather Marmonts, they still hold their value. I had this lovely blue velvet one, but it wasn't really the one I wanted. I wanted a plain blue velvet one. And then when the Gucci magic that Alessandro created started fading and quiet luxury started to come into play, I just didn't want to walk around with a bag that screamed love is blind or blind for love or whatever it was. I did search for another plain blue one, but this one, this beauty here, caught my eye. This is the medium size and she's perfect. And like the YSL Cassie, she doesn't get out on the town very much, but I still love her. She's functional. I love the gold chain. I love the size of the bag, the length of the strap. I just love everything about her. Bag number 5. So speaking of Gucci Marmont, since I couldn't find at the time the Gucci Marmont in black leather for a reasonable price that I really wanted, I bought this Marmont tote instead. And I thought it would be a good work bag when or if we ever returned to the office. Well, it wasn't, and I never really returned full time to the office. It didn't sit right on my shoulder, and it didn't expand or open enough, so she had to go. Okay, bag 6 and 7. They had issues with staying on my shoulder and then the depth. So the Saint Laurent, La Sanka, La Fiva, whatever she's called, this is a beautiful bag, and I see why influencers use this bag in their pictures. She really is a stunner. But I should have listened to everyone. Every single review of this bag said that they had a problem with this bag staying on their shoulders, and I was no exception to that. That bag, even when loaded with stuff, would not stop sliding down my arm and my shoulder. You literally have to clutch it under your arm to get it to stay in place. And I knew that I just didn't have the patience for that. I didn't even remove the tag from that bag. She just went back immediately. And with this Chanel Deauville, man, did I love the color of this bag. And I actually regret selling her. I haven't seen one in this smaller size since I sold her a few years ago. I've seen the bigger ones and I've seen the smaller ones for sale, but not in this color. I was on a buy-sell kick at the time, so I got rid of her, but I really do regret it. There were 2 issues that I had with that bag, and they weren't major issues. Like the Gucci Marmont tote, the depth meant that I couldn't open the bag very wide, and the front was just blazoned with Chanel, and I wasn't sure if I really wanted to walk around showing that. But I would actually love to have her back in my collection at some point. 8, the Chloe bag. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's talk about the positives. Great size. Loved that it was both a shoulder bag and a top handle, and I love a thick, structured, sturdy handle on my top handle bags. The color in person, it was this beautiful deep turquoise that looked fantastic against the locket. And then that was about it. I sold this bag at my consignment store and I broke even on it, but I had to reduce the price of what they originally listed it at. It got a lot of attention at the consignment store. But when I discussed lowering the price with the owner of the store, we both shared that we had the same issue with this bag, and so did the other customers. It was so difficult to get in and out of. It was the most difficult bag that I have ever had to try and get in and out of when you locked it. And if I remember correctly, it was like this clasp and pull through. It was like a multi-function open and closure on this bag. Don't even try to take this bag out to dinner when you've had a couple of cocktails because you ain't getting in and out of it. Bag 9 is the Hermes TPM. Oh, she's so cute. She was the perfect black gold color combo. The strap was the perfect size. It wasn't too thick. It was the perfect length. I carried it a lot. Because it was pliable, I was able to kind of fold it down to meet the stadium handbag requirements for Buccaneers events. And she was great for concerts too. But that was about it for my lifestyle. It really didn't hold much. And it was too expensive of a bag, even though I got it for a great deal, for such limited functionality. So I bought its bigger vintage sister. And if you've watched my other video, you know how much I adore this bag. It holds everything. And with these purse extenders from Amazon, the non-adjustable strap is now the perfect length for me. Bag 10 is the Louis Vuitton BB Georges, another stunner. both a shoulder and a top handle bag. And already owning the Neverfull and the pochette in the LV canvas, I knew that the bag would be durable. I loved that velvet striping on the front. I thought it just elevated the bag. It was a beautiful bag that I lusted after for a few years and ended up getting it for half of its retail price. But the problem when you buy things online without having held them or tried them out is that you don't know how it will truly work for you. And unfortunately, this bag didn't. It had that divider that I'm not crazy about, but don't worry, Cassie, you're not on the chopping block. But I could have gotten over that had it not been for the weight of this bag. It's heavy, and when you load it down, you better have some upper body strength to carry it. It's so much different than my Neverfull, which is really lightweight. But this bag here, it's just too darn heavy, and I ended up selling it for a loss. Bag 11, Givenchy. I had this shoulder bag that was a beautiful burgundy fall color with this great chain detail. But just like the L5A bag from St. Laurent, whatever it's called, I couldn't get the damn bag to stay on my shoulder. Instead of a leather slipping down my arm, it was this thick chain sliding down every time I put this bag on. I can get past an inside divider or partition, but I cannot deal with a bag that will not stay on my arm. Okay, bag 12 is the Dior Cannage. I should have never bought this bag. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't the shape that I wanted. It wasn't the color I wanted. I think I bought this one back in 2018 and I took it with me on a birthday trip with my sister down to Miami. So we went into the store to go get a twilly scarf. And when the sales associate was trying to tie that scarf around the handle, she commented that she had either never seen this version of this handbag or it was an old style. I can't remember what was said exactly. But something about how she stated that, it rubbed me the wrong way. On top of this not being the Lady Dior or a saddle bag, which is what I really wanted to get. I ended up selling this bag at my consignment store and I made my money back. And my desire for a Lady Dior, it just never really materialized. I think a lot of them don't really hold their value. Bag 13 is a vintage Chanel Mini Kelly. It was actually quite practical from a size perspective as it held everything, which is kind of deceiving from its size. It was from the late 80s or the early 90s and it was lambskin, which if you own or have ever felt a vintage lambskin Chanel bag, you know that feeling. It's incredibly soft. I held on to this bag for a few years. I didn't quite get back what I paid for it. The reason why I sold it was that when I held this bag, the proportion of the bag to my frame, it just looked really off. Had it had a strap like the mini Cassandra, I think I would have kept it. But holding it felt like I was holding a toy or a child's handbag. It just didn't suit my frame at all. And for that reason, I rarely wore it. It was too expensive of a bag to just sit on a shelf. Finishing up with bag 14 was a Chanel Kelly. I had the bigger version too, which I sold a month before lockdown to my consignment store and made back my money. Much better for my frame, and I would love to own this bag again for the right price. The problem with this particular bag was that the turn lock, it was vintage and the lock was loose, and so this bag would just flop open. And in hindsight, I probably should have gotten it fixed, but instead I sold her. But I would totally own her again. I don't really have the need because I think the St. Laurent Cassandra, it fits that bill at a better price point. Plus it functions as a shoulder bag as well. So there you go, 14 luxury handbags that I bought and sold over the years for various reasons. Tell me about the luxury handbags that you bought and sold as well down in the comments. Were any of yours the same as mine? Let me know. And as always, thank you for watching. If you like my content, please consider subscribing and giving this video a like. Hasta luego, my friends.